Welcome back to Running News After Dark this week with Coach Tori.
And Jeff.
And if you can hear a thumping in the background, that is my dog, who will probably be kicked out of the recording soon. We are, not that it matters what time it is for us, because you can listen to this anytime, but we are recording at night tonight, which I was thinking feels so weird, but then I was like, this is when, actually even later, right? It used to be like 9, we used to record the other podcast.
Yeah, that was late.
I'm not sure how that's, I used to get done like after 10. That's so crazy, because now I'm like not even awake. So we're recording at night. Here we are. So hopefully it still all works out. You are still in Florida. I can see that. And did you end up going to, I know we're like jumping right into it. Did you end up going to watch the Grand Slam track in Miami?
I did. I went to all 3 days in Miami.
Oh my gosh. Busy weekend. Was it exhausting?
And that's the problem. That's what I found with it. By the way, I'll give you you ready for the summary of the Grand Slam track?
Go for it. Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so overall experience, I loved it. As a fan, there was lots of action. So the event started like 5:30 on Friday, but they really only run for about 2 hours. They do 8 events on Friday, 8 Saturday, and 8 Sunday. They're all basically in the evening. Fridays 5:30 to 7:30. Saturday's about the same schedule, and Sunday's a little earlier, like 3:30 to 5:30. So once the races begin, it's pretty much nonstop, and the action was good. The crowds were good. I'd say Friday was good. Saturday and Sunday was pretty full, if not very full. It's only a 5,000 seat stadium, so it was listed as a sellout. So again, it was good. The crowd was good. The crowd was into it. A diverse crowd from the standpoint of race, gender, age. Very, very friendly atmosphere. So I did really enjoy the experience. Like I said, the best part for me was when the races began, there wasn't a lot of downtime. It was like the race ended, they introduced the next set of runners for the next event, and within the next 5 minutes, and got it off. So that part of the 2 hours really flew by. So it was great. The downside was it's 3 days you got to travel down as you started. It's exhausting. Like for me, it's like an hour and a half drive down there. Parking, get there an hour beforehand. So it pretty much takes up a lot of your day to do this for 3 straight days for really 6 hours of action. But I did think it was great. I would do it again. I will do it again when it's in Philadelphia later this month. The races I think that stood out for me were the 1500. I thought I'm becoming a big fan of those middle distances. The sprints I was always a fan of. That's what I sort of did in high school and college. But they're so quick. It's 10-second race, right, or a 20-second race depending on them. It was so quick. There's no strategy involved. It's basically talent. It's reaction time out of the blocks. But the 1500, 800, you get a little bit more strategy around, pacing yourself and, when do you make your move? And then when you get to the longer distances, the 5,000, 3,000, the problem with those I had was a little bit of sometimes the first 6 laps or the first 10 laps don't really matter. They stay in a pack and they don't really separate because no one's really pushing the pace. Now, I will say on the women's side, that wasn't the case. On the women's side, they played it straight up. They pushed the pace hard. In fact, Elise Cranny, the one American in the distance race, she got dropped pretty much early on in both of those 3,000 and the 5,000, and it was pretty evident. Where on the men's side, the pack of 8 just stayed together for the entire, till about the last mile in the 5,000, and then Grant Fisher really stepped it up and really took over that race. So again, I think that. I won't give you a lot of details. I mean, I think it was good. The most popular runner is Sydney McLaughlin. She got the biggest crowd reaction, fan favorite. I think probably Grant Fisher was next, given his recent world records and his Olympics bronze. more recently. So I think he's a fan favorite, but seemed like Sydney got by far the biggest. Then Grant and a few others, Bednarik and a few others got a nice round of applause, but nothing like Sydney got. But yeah, all good. It was a good time. You know who wasn't at the race?
Who?
There was a sprinter who didn't make the field. Do you know why?
No. You know I know nothing.
Fred Curley. I didn't know it either until Fred Curley was listed as, and he's ranked number 2 in the world, and he had a little bit of domestic violence issue on Thursday against one of the other runners.
Oh,
Ex
one of the other
girl,
runners.
yeah, ex girlfriend Alicia Johnson, who's in the she's in the women's short hurdles category. She was there. Um, he was not. He got sort of pulled. So yeah, I think I don't want to. I'll say alleged, right? Because I don't know how it's going to prove out. But yeah, supposedly he got into a little bit of a basically punched her in the face, is what's been alleged, with a closed fist.
Oh my
Gave her a
God.
bloody nose. Um, that they happened to just run into each other at the same hotel, because obviously they're running the same track meet, and so therefore he was pulled from the event.
Yeah, well, good. He did you ever watch Sprint on Netflix?
No.
It's like maybe worth a watch if you're like bored. But he like didn't you'd wanna so like obviously Noah Lyles is like hateable and he like plays up the hateability. So like, a lot of it was like Fred Curley versus Noah Lyles. So you want to be like, oh, obviously you're like, yay, Fred. But like he just doesn't give great energy either. So that's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, Fred's had some problems recently, by the way. Just so in this article I read, and I'll assume the article's accurate. So in January, he was arrested by police in Miami Beach following a confrontation with an officer that led to him being tased.
Nice.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, and then and it was also subsequently charged with battery against the police. Separately in January, he was also charged with domestic violence by strangulation following an incident in May of 2024. So again, I won't. I hate to pass judgment, but if this is true, I'll say bad guy. He's a bad dude.
yeah.
No, not can't be a fan. Um,
No, can't.
no, can't root for that. There seems like there's a lot of incidents suddenly, but again, alleged incidents.
Yikes.
But
How
that's
awesome was it
mine.
to watch? Oh, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, how awesome was it to watch Sydney in person? Is she
Yeah,
just
she
incredible?
was phenomenal. She was dominant. Um, I do wonder about the format, like having them run for her particular event, right? It's, the 400-meter hurdles, she was dominant. And then in the 400-meter open, she was dominant. Um, Now, she is ranked 2 in the world. Fem Cabal is actually ranked 1 in the world over her. And obviously based on all kinds of different metrics. And I know I think Sydney may be the world record holder, but there's a
Uh-huh.
bunch of different criteria that's been established, and yeah, Fem Cabal was actually ranked number 1, but she wasn't there, and she wasn't at the Diamond League, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, is it I know Sydney like notoriously does not race a bunch, and I actually was thinking about that with this in particular, and I get that the money probably makes it worth it, but I mean that's like always been her thing, and I think that's always been the only complaint if people ever complain about her is that she does not race much at all. Um and yeah, I was like a little worried if that's going to be like an issue with her performance at all. I mean, it doesn't seem like it is at the moment, but I know it's like a completely different way than how she's been operating pretty much her entire career, it seems like.
Yeah, it hasn't seemed to slow her down. I will say in the other races, I did try to check what people's rankings were, and there were. I also compared it to the Diamond League, so it did seem like here and the Diamond League, which is obviously for those who don't know, that Diamond League is basically they have about 12 races. It's all mostly in Europe. There's one in the U.S., but it's mostly in Europe and in Asia. I think the first 2 events were in China. The next one's in Doha. So It's got a much more international feel. But I looked at their lineup. Their lineup has similar, like, they have top 10 runners, but probably four or five of them. Same with here. Like most of the races, there were four or five of the top 10 ranked runners in each of the events for the most part. There could be less, there could be more. Um, so it had that kind of feel, but it also felt like, Kenny Bednarik's not, he's ranked like 10th or lower. And he's not lost an event. And there's guys that were at least two or three guys ranked ahead of him in the world in those events that he won. So I just wonder if those guys just aren't, they're not peaking now. They're not, they're training for the long term, maybe for the world championships in the fall. And therefore they're not trying to peak now, and that may impact their performance. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's interesting because obviously we're coming off of an Olympic year, so people's priorities can be a little shifted, right? I wonder if this ends up being a success, the Grand Slam track, that on like an Olympic year where like obviously where you want to peak is going to be completely different. Um, like if they're going to have some different issues on like who's running what and all those things. I get that's like 3 years down the road, but
Yeah, yeah, and they face it now a little bit. Like the World Championships are in the fall, probably similar timing. I think it's a little later than what the Olympics would be. Olympics would be July. This might be late August. Um, so you sort of have that now. I'm assuming people would. I mean, there's probably more money for them in Grand Slam at the moment if they were to win. They'll, win the quote slam because that's $100,000. So maybe that comes into play a little bit, but I got to imagine that from a prestige standpoint, world championships are probably what they're more focused on.
yeah,
But yeah,
that makes
Sydney
sense.
again, she was dominant, and to your point, she has historically raced sparsely, and I think this is at least getting her out there for 8 races over a 4 month period.
Yeah, crazy. Well, it's cool that you
Yeah,
got to go all the whole thing. I only thought, I guess I assumed you only would have gone to one day, but
yeah, it was pretty easy to get tickets for the most part. I mean, even though it was quote sellout, I got tickets the day before, so it was. I mean, I was in different seats. I was in like the main section, right close to the finish line in day one. Day two, I was in the grandstands, but further towards the end, like more towards the beginning of the front stretch. And then the third day, I was on the back stretch in the stands. So again, not a huge stadium. I don't know how they're going to do Penn. Penn is a 50,000 seat stadium, and this was a 5,000 seat stadium. So I don't know if you can get that kind of a crowd in Philadelphia. I don't know whether they're going to close off sections, what they'll do. We'll find out. We'll find out when we
yeah.
go. You're still in. Since you now know the schedule is like Friday at like 5:30 to 7:30. So that's not
Yeah,
necessarily
we
the
have
window
to.
you may have been thinking.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely still in. We will have to talk logistics because that is not the window I was thinking when I picked Friday.
Yeah, Sunday may be the better call. It may be 3:30, 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. So that may be a better window for you. But we can do that offline.
Yeah.
Hey, so second story I had is a man walks a sub 3 hour marathon. What's your reaction to that?
Is this another April Fool's joke?
No, it is not. This guy is a
So
legit race walker. You've seen those race walkers, right?
I have. I have seen videos. I didn't know they did marathon distance. I guess that's how much I don't pay attention. Sub three.
Yeah, but first of all, I'm gonna just be a little bit negative Nancy here and say I don't think walking should be a sport. I mean, I can't walk a sub 3 hour marathon, so it's certainly it's a nice accomplishment for him. But it's not like an Olympic sport. To me, that should not be an Olympic sport. And by the way, it's all cheaters anyway, because most of them walk. The rules of race walking is you have to have one foot on the ground at all times, and they all get caught at different times during these events that they're essentially running, where both feet are not touching the ground at the same time. So um, I'm not a fan of race walking, but this guy, I'll give him a little bit of respect for doing this. I can't do a sub 3 hour running, um, so respect for doing a walking version of it. He's a
Yeah, I
Canadian.
think
Nice
like
guy, I'm sure.
I'm always shocked by how fast people can quote walk. But no, I agree with you. And I haven't watched much professional race walking. I've seen videos mostly of like teens and kids who are race walkers, and I'm kind of just like always baffled by how you get into that as a child. But yeah, I mean, like you said, you see the video and you're like, okay, I just saw four people running. I guess you can't have one per like they don't have a judge watching every step. You know what I mean? I get it, but yeah, no, it is a little peculiar. 'Cause-
It is, and it looks somewhat ridiculous. It looks like it's hard on the body because just
oh my gosh, yeah.
moving your hips that fast and your knees like almost are they're straight at the entire time. It just feels to me like it's a risk of injury. Now again, there's running a lot of runners have injuries too, so I don't want to even get into it. But speaking of running injuries, I sent you an article about running with strollers. Someone actually did some research, and lo and behold, it's not good for you. It's
Shocker.
bad for your biomechanics. It increases, it compromises your form and increases your risk of injury. So, strollers, bad. Let's stop doing it. Let's just run. If your child can't run on their own, they're out of the race.
Well, you already know I'm gonna like vehemently disagree. Not with the facts, right? I can definitely say I can see how it does it say like what it does exactly besides is it the arm swing or is
It's
there
the
something
yeah,
else?
I'm swing. It's the bend forward a little bit. You have a forward bend in your body, so your hips aren't moving the way they would normally move. Um, I think is the main issue.
Yeah, no, I definitely can see that. It is like a tricky thing. But as someone who probably would have like drove off a cliff if I couldn't run with my kid, because you also know that for like a year and a half, that's the only way he was napping. Which I don't want parenting advice about that from anyone, but that was how we got through the day. Um, I'm all about the stroller running. But I did, and I can't remember at all, and I don't think you were on this episode, but we did an episode on our old podcast, Raising Runners. It was the second episode I had with Rachel Pope, and she is a PT, and she talked about stroller running because she's run with a single stroller, she runs with a double stroller, she runs with double stroller and kids like on bikes and stuff. So she's like very well versed in the stroller game. And she talks about how like some things you can do to make it not as tough on your body. But yeah, I think not only does it slow you down, I think it slows your cadence down as well, which can also, as we know, like lead to more risk of injury. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to slow your cadence down, but like I know for me, it was just kind of hard to like do all the things at once, keeping your feet moving quickly. And yeah, trying to make sure you still had some kind of arm swing, switching your arms, all of that. I get it.
Yeah, no, it
Bad.
seems like it's a bad idea. I think people running with strollers on their own is great. I think racing with strollers, I don't know, man. I'm not a fan.
You've raced with me with a stroller.
I'm just saying, I'm not a fan.
No, I get that too, and I think I usually, well, as you also know, when I would race with a stroller, it was usually that very small race where there's like 25 people, so it didn't really matter. And then that big race we did in Philly where the people told me to start in the back, and then I saw a few people who didn't start in the back, and it's like I do totally get why, like it is a hazard,
Yeah.
I get it, but
Yeah, I'm not hating on you for doing it. I'm just saying, if I was making the rules, I'd say no strollers.
well, and a lot of places, so one of the last races I did in Philly, they said no strollers at all, which I was very disappointed about. But like again, totally understand hazard, danger, slows people down. Just like running with dogs, that dog race we talked about last week, bad idea,
Yeah,
which I
yeah.
also do. So
Hey, so since I'm running down here in the heat, I'm going to ask you a couple of quiz questions since we finished my three stories. Ready? So, what's the optimal temperature to run a marathon
oh my gosh, it's probably like 45 degrees or something ridiculous, right?
in?
55.
Now you nailed it, 45. So
Ugh.
there's a window, and they did it in Celsius, but I think where you would get sort of a neutral, non-negative performance for the heat is in that 35 to 55 range.
Oh,
Fahrenheit.
that sounds
We'll talk Fahrenheit.
horrible.
Well, we did that Rocky run, which was like 20 degrees. It seemed like that was the worst run of my, of my experience of all time. Was that run?
Coldest run ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my next question would be is how much do you think, like as you get up, there's a whole scale that someone put together some research on dealing with humidity and temperature. So when you get to the highest end of 85 degrees and 95% humidity, how much do you think your performance suffers as a result of that? Being time wise, like how much slower are you in that race?
20% slower. Is it a percentage?
It's a percentage, yeah. And I would have thought the same. For me, I certainly would be at 20% impacted by it. But the study showed that it was about a 7.1% impact. So basically, it took a
Oh,
4-hour marathon, made him a 4:14. So it does. It's very impactful. I don't know if I can finish a marathon at 85 degrees and 95% humidity.
yeah. I mean, I guess they could say that's like that mental toughness we must not have. But yeah, I would have thought it was bigger. Wow.
Yeah. They also did. They also part of that study was whether you should drink a set amount of water at each interval or drink to your thirst. And surprisingly, that just simply drinking to your thirst um, was neutral whether you drank consistently or just drank when you were thirsty. Um, so it didn't change performance by doing it that way. Now, obviously, if you don't drink, then you do have a performance impact. But if you do wait and say, okay, hey, I'm thirsty, I'll drink the cup of water, this one, but not the next one, then you're not really impacted by it. Dousing yourself. Do you believe that dousing yourself will? This is when you basically grab the cup of water and throw it over your head or throw it in your face um, to cool your body down. Do you believe that impacts your performance?
That specifically, no. But I do think if you do like ice or like the ultra runners that do those like different kinds of things where they pack their, clothes with ice, that probably does matter, right?
Well, the study showed, and this was a small sample, 13 runners, that the dousing had a 27-second impact in a 10K.
Get out of here.
Yeah, so
That's not
you
true.
think this is bull? This is runner's world. It's
Runners,
runner's world.
13 people is not a sample size. Get out of
No,
here.
it's not a great sample of dousing versus not dousing, but that's what the study showed. It's a study. It qualifies as a study, maybe not a great study.
Fine.
All right, that's all I got on my side.
All right. I only have a little bit of stuff. Well, the one I was almost thought this was going to be a story, but I guess you had like real stories this week. Um, 2000, I think it's 2000. Again, this is now handwritten notes from things that were taken from screenshots. So, like, this is my journalism here. 2,000 people ran an Atlanta marathon over the weekend or last week, and it was 554 feet short. So, it does not count. And I had people
Oh.
send this to me, and like, honestly, I get it sounds like it was a very small race if there's like only 2,000 people, but how does that happen at this like how does that happen now? I don't even understand that possible like you didn't even try. Like how did you not measure the distance right? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I do feel like if you and I put a race on, it's possible we would screw that up. But I'm
for sure.
assuming that people that put on a real marathon are more qualified. They have to, there's some process where you have to take that little wheel, that wheel that people walk with, that little hand thing.
Yeah,
And I assume you have to go through the entire course. You don't just drive it in your car and give it your best guess. I
right.
assume it to be
Crazy.
sanctioned, it's got to be a little bit more official than that. So again, I don't know how you can screw that up. If someone's actually on the course doing that, you can't screw that up.
Yeah, no, you just didn't measure or you went off of like a GPS thing, like you didn't do it right and that's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, stinks. No, but that was I don't remember if you ran the race last, I think it was last year, one of the winter series. They had to change the course and they're like always proud of their, USATF standard course or whatever it is. And they said it still was a qualified 5K, but it actually was not. It was short and I guess maybe you weren't there because the friend I ran with ran like the best race of her life. And she was like, I think even if it was the right distance, though, like it still would have been a PR, but I'll never know now because they had a short course. So that super sucks.
Yeah, I ran the weekend, the second race after that, so I was there for the aftermath of it, but not there for the actual race one.
That's right. And then ultra running news, which I also, I'm not always very knowledgeable about, but the women's 6-day world record was just broken again, a little over 603 miles by Megan Eckert. Did you hear about this?
I did not hear about this, and I did not know Megan Eckert's name until you just said it.
Same. I did not know who she was because again, don't really follow that realm of running, but yeah, now I just can't stop seeing her name everywhere. And yeah, 603 miles in 6 days, I believe. American woman, I believe as well. Again, this is me with my no facts. Yeah, kind of exciting. But again, this was one that was broken like early 2020s time frame, and then again like almost a year later, I believe, and then now again. So it's like it might be one that continues to be pushed a little bit.
Yeah, if it's not Courtney Dahlwalter and or Camille Herron, I don't know. That's the only two names I know in women's ultra marathons.
Right. So yeah, it was, I thought it still was Camille that had it, but it was Camille, then it was someone else, and then now it's Megan. So yeah, kind of surprising. Can't even imagine having the urge to be like, that's the world record I'm going after.
I'm thinking something easier than that.
And then another one, and I'm going to mess this name up because the autocorrect changed it 100 times. So I'm not even sure if I have any of the right letters written down. But Lucas Robel, that's not it, but he broke the backyard ultra record. In 116 hours, it was 777 kilometers, so 483 miles.
Yeah, I'm sorry. They call that the backyard what?
Backyard ultra. It's like a whole ultra thing.
Oh, it's the name of a specific ultra? Because it's
Yeah.
I kind of picture this guy in his backyard running around.
Oh, for the longest time when people talked about the backyard ultra, I was assuming that that's what they were also talking about. I was like, wow, that's like a weird niche.
Concept,
that we're like, yeah, like that's what we're talking about. But okay, no, but it's like a real event, and that's just like the name of it. But yeah, and I feel like I've heard his name before, that he has, done some incredible performances in the ultra world. But yeah, it's all lots of mileage. Couldn't be me.
Look at you bringing the ultra marathon information this week.
I mean, barely though. I like brought a couple headlines that I stole off of the internet. I was like, well, I hope this is right. I didn't read the articles, so here's this news.
I'm a Grand Slam specialist, and you're now an ultra specialist. So
yes, I know. I'm bringing the silly news. Well, that's all I've got for today, and I don't even have any like, oh, I'm going to go out for this run, because I'm not doing that now because it is nighttime. And who knows when I'll get to run next, I feel like. But yeah, did you already do your workout for the day?
I did. I went running. Yeah. 3 months.
Oh, how was your run in the heat? 95%.
That's what that index prompted me to look at. That was the fact that, yeah, it was really hot today. And after 2 miles, my heart rate was in the red zone, which just seems like once it gets in there, I can't get it out. So like, even if I walk, and I did, at the 2 mile mark, I had to walk just to bring it back down. Mm-hmm. It got to the green zone, so obviously it's green, orange, then red. But as soon as I started back up, within a couple hundred meters, within half a mile, it was way back up in the red zone again. So it was too hot, too humid today.
Well, that stinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, did you try jeffing? But it sounds like you did. So
I did.
That's the only advice I have for you.
Okay.
Ice, right? Try ice in the shirt, dousing yourself with water.
Douse myself with water.
Right? Science says dousing. That's what I got.
All right.
All right. Make sure you subscribe and like us on whatever. You can find us on YouTube if you'd rather listen on YouTube. You can't see videos of our beautiful faces yet, but you can hear us on YouTube if that's a better way. And feel free to leave any kind of comments, right? 5 stars, but say whatever you want. And we are going to be doing, especially for the summertime, well, leading up to the summertime, we will be doing some more of runners roundtable type things. So if there's anything you want us to talk about or any kind of story or whatever, feel free to leave it in the comments. So we will catch you next week. Oops, that's the wrong thing. Nope, that's the right button. Okay, stop recording. Yeah.